research?
You know, when my dad was dying, which was, you know, a good chunk of time, I mean, I was just so amazed. I mean, these are the angels on the planet, I think. And I have not done the volunteer work myself. I've always thought I would love to. Not that this makes it right, but I've read all the books and the training books. And I am just, you know, fascinated by the ability. I know the young woman who was a primary person for my dad one day had to leave, and she was out in the yard crying, and she told me she had sort of allowed herself to get too close. And you know, so I was really taken with this ability to both be a helpmate and also, you know, I think as in many areas of life, we're just sort of perched on this fragile little line, you know, sort of easily tilted one way or the other. And so I think that's much of what, you know, my character is walking that tightrope with the desire to both, you know, be a help, but also acknowledging that she's also part of this process. And when it's over, you know, for a lot of the family members, sort of needs to stay there. But yeah, the people who do that work are just, in my mind, sort of as high up as you can go.
With your line, she knows how to disappear. It's just so encapsulates that gift so much in a very simple.
Thank you. Well, but at some point, what you have learned from Joanna is that when she's in that hot tub plotting her suicide, that she just wants to disappear. And there's this recurring memory of her with being assistant to her childhood friend, who's also in here. And he was the magician and she was the assistant, and so it was always about making her disappear. And she comes to that point in her life where she really does want to disappear. So the whole disappearing, now you see her, now you don't, all of that is used throughout. And you get segments of Joanna's notebook. Sometimes the people dying have figured into the plot somebody else's history who you've met. Other times they're just random. But what you get is what she takes away from that life in the notebook. And then each person dying in that notebook, there's like a very brief one-page of the voice of that person in those last minutes.
Now, do you write in your book about how she meets this lady who's your tattoo?
Oh yeah, yeah.
She meets
she's the kid. She works at the retirement facility.
Oh, that's how she meets her.
Yeah. So she's a part of the community. They're all kind of entwined, you know. Hopefully it makes sense as you read it. Yes.
The timing is so perfect. I found myself just getting to this unbearably tragic sense in the scene, and then there'd be a funny line that, like an antidote. Are you aware of the time? Do you make the tragedy so beautiful so you can't stand it, or does it happen naturally?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think a lot of times it happens naturally. I'm also aware of, you know, as I say, I collect things all the time, and you know, I sort of have that stash of those lines that are of a certain kind of humor that I have in mind. I never know where it's going to go, but I know that I want to put it somewhere, and I think it's a defense mechanism, and one that I grew up with, you know, in a family where if it got too unbearable, somebody would say something funny, and then I spent 20 years in New England laughing inappropriately. And a lot of times, you know, where this funny. Even, you know, with Alzheimer's, she still is just as funny as she can be. And the women she lives with, one not long ago, somebody said something about men. She said, men? I forgot all about men. She said, I forgot there was a man. It's been years since I've seen one. And I leave, you know, and I'm writing down all these things that I don't know where they will go. But I'm very interested in that line between comedy and tragedy, because I really do think that we're kind of wired like a pendulum, you know, and as you can only go so far in either direction. So your capabilities of great laughter enable you, I think, really to swing in the other direction, or to be able to travel into those dark places a little bit easier. Or that's my excuse.
What's the relationship between the journey into the South and the recording of so many other people's experiences?
I think just that awareness for her of the attention being on the lives of other people, the value of these other people, the importance, you know. So on one hand, it's a journey to herself, but I think, you know, part of the philosophy of this man Luke, you know, with the dog who sets her on that course is that, you know, without the awareness of the value of other humans, you know, you do get lost. And so it's, they almost become her milestones along the way. And I was blessed with a great dad. I mean, just a wonderful, sweet, sweet dad who was able to say all these things at the end and make all these apologies, you know, in a way that was just really beautiful. And it was also funny because he was, one of my favorite stories briefly is when he was like heavily, just towards the end, and, you know, on morphine. And, but my mother, who like, just busy and on top of everything always, and she would come bustling into the room, and her image was in the mirror over the dresser in their bedroom, and he calls me over urgently, and he says, oh dear, here comes that little woman, and she's wearing an outfit just like your mother's, and you know how angry your mother gets when somebody else is wearing an outfit like hers. He said, you've got to help me keep her from, you know, you've got to help me hide her. And I said, Daddy, that's her. And he said, oh my God, there are two of her. And, you know, as soon as it was out of his mouth, he realized what he had said. His eyes got big, and he laughed, you know. And it was just a real gift, that kind of laughter, which he managed right up, you know. I'm obsessed with memory and fascinated by memory. From a fictional standpoint, you know, I always tell my students that they will never be as smart as their subconscious. You know, so when you're writing and something blows in from left field, and you're like, why did I think of that? I guarantee you, if you circle back, there's a reason, you know, that it came in there. It's reminded you of something that somehow connects. I have to say, I did describe my mother's situation to my internist last physical, and he said it sounded like late development, not the early. He may have just been. But you know, something's going to get you right. And I wouldn't trade the other things they gave me. I mean, I wouldn't be here. So, you know, something's going to get you. And so I think a lot of this book is kind of about that. Something's going to get you, so, you know, make hay while the sun shines.